In this video, I'm going to show you how to create an assessment framework using the iOS app on an iPad. You can create an assessment framework for any subject-specific or generic frameworks that are going to be used for more than one learner. Following on from creating the assessment framework, you can then create an assessment book. So I've opened up the Evidence for Learning app on my iOS device, and in this case it's an iPad. And the first thing I'm going to do is tap on the cog at the very top left. Then I'm going to tap on Cloud Admin at the top right. You then enter in the Cloud Admin password and then tap Continue. We're then on the Cloud Admin menu, and I'm going to scroll down to the Assessment section. So within the Assessment section, there are further videos and guides available within the EFL Online Resource Centre, showing you how to create a continuum if you want to be able to track progress against a certain outcome. And you can use your own continuum, such as emerging, developing, secure, generalized, or you can use any continuum or any language that you want to at your school. And that, to create a continuum, you first of all create the aspects and then create the schema. So there are further videos available within the EFL Online Resource Centre on how to do that. And again, you can also create an assessment framework and not add an assessment schema at this stage. We've already, within this test school, created aspects and a schema so we can use it when we're making the assessment framework. So I'm now going to tap on Assessment Frameworks. You can see we haven't actually created any assessment frameworks yet. So to create my first assessment framework, I'm going to tap on the plus at the very top right. An assessment framework is always linked to a curriculum framework or a subject-specific framework or a framework that you're going to be using with more than one learner. To be able to link it to that framework that's already in your cloud, then we're going to tap on where it says Frameworks None, so we can then link it directly to a framework. You can then see all the frameworks that are in your cloud that are not a PLG. What I'm then going to do is tap on the framework that I want to link this to. So in this case, it's going to be Maths I Can statement. So I just tap on that name. You can then see we're taken back to the assessment framework settings page. And this is the name of the framework at the top. So it's going to be named the assessment framework. It's going to have exactly the same name as the framework that's already in the cloud. Then tap on View or Edit Assessment Items. As we're creating this assessment framework, no assessment frameworks items have currently been specified. To tell the system which items we want to be able to assess, we tap the plus at the top right. You'll then see the framework being displayed, and we can use the multi-select function and also the slider at the bottom to be able to pick the items very efficiently. So we can move the slider at the bottom to the right, and that will completely open the framework up so we can see all the framework items. We can also move it all the way to the left to completely collapse it all the way down back to mathematics. So if we move the slider all the way to the right again, I'm now going to switch on multi-select at the top, and then the button is turned to the right and is switched on to green. Then if I tap on mathematics at the top, you'll see that all the items within the whole framework will have been selected. And I'll just scroll down to show you that. Scroll back to the top. What we then can do is use the slider to be able to decide which items we don't want to actually assess. In this example, I actually want to be able to assess either now or in the future any of these outcomes and the specific outcomes, but I don't want to actually assess the headings within the framework. So I'm going to move the slider to the left until we get back to the level of the headings. So let's move that to the left. And you can see when we get to this stage, these are the way the framework is broken down in terms of the headings. So I'm going to leave multi-select switched on and just tap again on mathematics. And then if I move the slider at the bottom all the way again to the right, you'll see that in each item now that I want to be able to assess, and in this case, it's all the actual outcomes or the I can statements, I've got a tick to the right, and the actual headings of the framework are not going to be an assessable item. And you can see that throughout the framework. So we go back down. On this particular one, actually, I also don't want to assess this Key Stage 1 greater depth, because I just want to deselect one item I'm going to switch off multi-select and just tap on that one item so that becomes unticked. And it is worth just having a quick look through the framework to see if there's any other items like that. And in this case, here's another heading or subheading. But you can see the other headings, the main headings of the framework, will automatically not be selected because we use the slider at the bottom to be able to move the framework, open and close it, and select the items we want to include. So now I'm going to tap Add at the top right. You can now see that all the items that we've chose to be accessible are highlighted in green, and the items that we haven't are not highlighted in green. Again, we can change this if you've made a mistake by swiping left on an item and deleting it from being an assessment item. If there's another item that you wanted to actually add on, you could press the plus at the top right to be able to make that amendment. But for now, I'm going to tap Assessment Framework top left to return to the Assessment Framework settings page. If you don't actually want to add a continuum to this assessment framework at this stage, then we could just set the assessment framework to be live, and then we could start the process of making the assessment books. But in this example, I do want to add a schema, so I'm going to tap on View or Edit Assessment Schemas. I actually want to use the same assessment schema throughout the whole framework. If I didn't, I could select individual items that I wanted to be able to add the schema to and assign it. So you can use different schemas for different areas of the framework. But in this example, I'm going to use the multi-select function at the top to switch that on. And then if I tap on anywhere in the green, you'll see that they all become highlighted orange. It is worth scrolling the way down quickly through the framework. And if any other area, such as this one, is still highlighted in green, and you want to add the assessments, the schema, same schema to this area too, you just tap on the screen. So it is just worth quickly scrolling through the bottom, checking that all the items that you want to add the same continuum or the same schema to track progress has then turned to orange. You then tap Assign at the top right. You may have already created a number of assessment schemas, and then what you do is you pick the one that you want to assign to the items within this assessment framework that you've just chosen. So I'm going to tap on this Emerging, Developing, Secure, Generalized schema that I've called EDSG. And we can now see that the schema has been added to the items, and you can see that on the right-hand side. If you haven't chosen to add a schema, then the yellow boxes will be blank, and that's also absolutely fine. I'm now going to return back to Assessment Framework settings by tapping on Assessment Framework top left. Before the end of this video, I just want to include some information for those of you who are also using Insights for Learning. As you'll see on the screen, for those of you who are using Insights for Learning, your option will, instead of just saying View or Edit Assessment Schemas, it will also say And Summary Items. So I'm going to tap on that now. So for those of you using Insights for Learning, you can add the schema to items as we have done earlier in this video, just the same. But you'll also notice that you have a blue rectangle to the right of any item that isn't an accessible item. And you can choose to make any of these items with the blue rectangle to the right summary totals. So for example, we could make mathematics a summary total, and then that all the outcomes within that framework, you then try to get a summary total to see the progress for each individual learner. So in this case, I'm going to tap on mathematics so it becomes highlighted, and then tap Assign at the top right. It then shows the items that are going to be included in this summary total, but for now I'm just going to click Save, and I can review that later. I'm then going to add the summary total for the item for number, counting, and value. So I tap on it to highlight it, and again click Assign top right. And again, I press Save at the top right of the screen. Once the summary total is highlighted, you can see all the items that are going to be included in that summary total are indicated with a blue dot. So I can scroll down within the number, counting, and value, and all these outcomes will be included in the summary total. But you can see that within all the outcomes within number calculation will not be. If I scroll back to the top, I would click back on mathematics, With this summary total, I can scroll to the bottom and I can see all the outcomes within the framework have all got a blue dot to the right-hand side, and that means that it'll be included in the summary total. So I've now repeated that process and added in summary totals for all the items that I want to be summary totals. So I can now tap Assessment Framework, top left. The final then thing to do is just to set the assessment framework to be live. So where it says status draft, I tap on that and it will become live. And then I can return back to the Cloud Admin by tapping Assessment Frameworks, top left. We can see we've created our first assessment framework and the green circle indicates that it's live. So I just tap Cloud Admin, top left. As ever, always feel free to get in touch if you've got any questions or you'd like any help. You can email us at services@theteachercloud.net. For information on how you can connect with the hundreds of practitioners who are using evidence for learning, please visit our website for further information, and that is www.evidenceforlearning.net.